Okay, so our snare is tuned, and we can get rid of you. Now, here's where the fun comes in. We can draw in a clip here, and we're not going to commit to these placements of these snares, mind you. When I get to the whole arrangement section, like when I have the whole idea fleshed out, and then the arrangement starts over, I start piecing together the entire structure of the whole thing. That's where we can start moving all these around and kind of figure out the best method for these drums. If I can't figure it out in the whole drum session alone. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're gonna stay in C3 because we want to stay in the tuned note that our snare is in. So we can arrange any of these in any particular way we want, just as long as we keep it in the same note here. And then let's hear it in context with everything, obviously. So you can kind of hear where I'm going with this. Like you just want this shuffle, like that dun 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 dun, like something like that. It's real simple. And we also want to make sure that our low end is cut up from the snare. We don't want any low end of the snare to conflict with our kick drum. Let's go ahead and consolidate you guys. And let's just see how this word works. Okay, that kind of works. I like that. Let's boost some of the snare a little bit. Let's go to like 2 and boost around 200 hertz. I usually boost around 200 hertz for dubstep and bass music to give more of a punchy snare. I don't want to do as much in this one, but just a little bit. Okay, now that we have the rhythm of it kind of set, let's add some reverb to it. Now I know I said I didn't want a snare with a lot of reverb because I want to add my own reverb to it. So if you have one that already has a lot of reverb, it could be overkill. You don't want all this reverb in the snare. It's just gonna be drawn out and it's gonna lose transient impact and everything. So let's just do something real quick. We're gonna boost the decay just a little bit here. Okay, so that kind of works. Now, I advise you guys to always save your MIDI files when you come up with a groove that you like say, like for instance, that one. Just, you can always drag this clip into your directory here, like down here. So if I wanted to drag it into like templates or whatever. And it'll save it as an Ableton clip file. It won't save it as the MIDI file. And you can drag that in, and it just brings in the entire clip for it. But if you wanted to just hit Control Shift or Command Shift E, if if you're on Command Shift E if you're on a Mac, I believe it is. Could be wrong. And then you just save it as a MIDI file, and then save it into a folder you always have and put it in your browser. So when you have an idea that strikes, you have all these like grooves that are ready to go. Now you can always use Groove Pool too from Ableton. I like to make my own. It's just something I like to do because I like to just draw out each little note. It's just an easier way for me to do it. But there are some really cool grooves that you can always apply to your drums here if you want to try it. In another track, I'll use Groove Pool and I'll show you how it's done. But for now, it's the same essential thing as just, it's a bunch of data or a bunch of files that have little placements of notes, and you can drag it onto your MIDI, and then it'll rearrange and quantize your notes in that way. So like you have sixteenths and triplets and everything. But in this case, let's just go ahead and save the MIDI file, which I can show you. I already show you how you do that. I'm gonna load up one that I had saved from a previous track I did a while ago. So for instance, like I have this whole like custom folder that I made, custom instrument racks, where I have everything broken down for like little things like MIDI files that I've saved, or group files that I've saved. Like when I have like a kick that I want to use, everything. Save them all as ADG files or group files, or I just call them group files basically. It saves the entire thing. So let's say I want to have a track here, and then I'm working in, let's say, dubstep drums or crisp dubstep snare. Drag that in, and then it's a group track here with the sample of the snare that I'm using. It's EQ'd the way that works for the genre that I'm working in, what's labeled here, dubstep, and then it's got compression and everything on it. So but yeah, that's why I love Ableton, really, because I know other DAWs can do this as well, but I discovered this kind of functionality through Ableton, and it makes your workflow turbo speed when you don't have to process everything all over. You can just do it once, save it, and then always have something ready to go no matter what genre you're working in. So for snares, I have snare rhythm here, and it's just another version of this. So let's see how it might sound better with this groove instead of this groove. We can even do both. Let's try both. Let's have you guys all together. And then let's shorten the notes so that everything is uniform. Now the velocity on this one is a little bit low. I want it to be more consistent, really. I could humanize these by just randomizing the velocities. Like if I wanted to go ahead and highlight them all and then hit randomize here, and you can see how it randomizes the velocities of each of these little notes, and you can get a more natural sounding result rather than if you have it at all the same velocity. It can sound robotic and really computer generated more than if you have it at different velocities. It emulates how a human would hit a snare, and every snare is not going to be exactly always the same velocity because we're human. We're going to have variances in the velocities here, so it sounds a little more natural here. Now obviously it doesn't work for this genre because there's some really low ones that aren't really hitting, and it kind of ruins the whole groove. So but if you wanted to make it sound more natural, that's how you would do it, basically. Adjustments of the velocities. Okay, so we have it all set at a consistent velocity here. Okay, let's duplicate you out because I still hear the other one that has a velocity. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, so snares, like I said, really it's all about the groove of the snare versus the whole quality of the processing of the snare like you would have in dubstep and other genres. This is more about the placement of where it is as it relates to the kick. So the kick should have the emphasis here, is that's the main source of, you know, it has all the low end. The snare should be more of like a little percussion element in the background. It is percussion technically, but I mean, like, it shouldn't be as much of a foundation of the actual beat as in other genres that are breakbeat driven. So the snare sounds pretty good, and let's go ahead and move on to the next element in our drum session here.